saw infrastructure, and I saw education.
Yeah, and very interestingly, while you were away in China, there was this historic meeting in Singapore between Trump and Kim Jong-un.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like the world moved back from nuclear war.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's very interesting, almost ironic, that the American people don't want to study war no more.
Yeah.
It's not all clear, but this war thing has bankrupted the country and ruined the people.
Oh, yeah.
And, in Washington, Reverend Barber and his followers have this Poor People's March going on. And that's an anti-war as well as a social justice movement. And, China's moving way ahead of the United States.
Gosh, yes.
Yeah, I wish I could be there, man, but congratulations and welcome back.
I was telling somebody on the news stories, there's no TMZ. There was no entertainment, who's marrying who. They had an award show that was like similar to like Academy Awards one night, but the main programming was dealing with MOUs, like just having these understandings, and they were shaking hands with India.
Yeah.
They were shaking hands and doing deals in Africa. Like this was on the news. Like
that's right.
The country just opened up. One generation ago, people thought they couldn't even have a car under Mao, but there was a preservation of history.
Mm-hmm.
There's some, because they only tell us the negative until you go there, and then you look around, and I'm seeing women walking around pitch black, midnight, safe.
Yeah.
So you can critique Big Brother, you can critique communism and the legacy of control, but there are some things that we don't have based on our quote-unquote freedoms.
Well, and let's not forget they had a revolution in 1949, and the United States was not in favor of that, and now they're faced with the fact that the United States in a few years will no longer be the largest economy in the world. But the other thing is they care for their people better than our government cares for the people here. I heard Brother Caliphate, on the segment right before this, talking about the cuts to Social Security and Medicare. And we need not even mention what's going on here in the city of Philadelphia. $9 million.
No, 900.
Well, 900 million not accounted for,
and then 33.
Oh, 33, yes, I'm sorry.
33 not accounted for, but 900 something mismanaged, right?
Yeah, that's right.
924.
924.
Right. In this city. And that's in the poorest of the 10 largest cities, where childhood hunger increased by 300% over 10 years.
Yeah.
I mean, this is an outrage. I mean, we can talk about the successes of a few, but when we look at the many...
Yeah, is it really success in a larger context?
Right, well, but the many are suffering, and that's what at least that's what my concern. You say I read Du Bois, and I do. And what attracts me to Du Bois is his concern for the least of these.
I hear you.
And that's why, again... Malcolm and Martin and so on. But man, I'm so glad you're back.
No, it was definitely amazing. The brother literally said he remembers getting his ration cards and not being able to even dream of owning a car. And I was comparing that. I had a long conversation with this brother because it was after we went to the Confucius Temple. And the Confucius family, was saying how turbulent it was after Mao and after the revolution, because a lot of the new people didn't want to value the teachings of Confucius. We spoke with the 75th grandson of Confucius, who was still, on the property, and he actually critiqued Trump similarly to what you were saying, and said what it said in the United States, that he runs his country like a business,
right?
And he doesn't have concern for the people.
That's right.
So, I was talking to the gentleman.
Can I ask you a question?
No, go ahead, yeah.
Do you believe any of the politicians are concerned with the people?
It might be an oxymoron at this point.
A politician?
It's almost like, I don't know, there's a movie called The Bronx Tale, and the young man said, I'm the president of the class. He said, you're a paid snitch, you're a politician, professional liar.
Hey, look, Professor Smith, in the last election, only 16% of eligible voters turned out.
Yeah, some of those 1,100 I saw was the way they were decided.
That's right.
1,100 people.
Yeah, or 11. That gives you an indication of what the people think about the politicians. And, I kind of share the people's concerns and really their judgment. The people have been left on their own, to their own devices. They don't have adequate schools for their children. They don't know if they'll have health care. And that's why I look to Washington. When I say look to Washington, to Reverend Barber and those heroic people who are going to jail. And this is not being reported.
Now, is there a person that they're supporting? Like as far as do they have they have a Green Party,
I don't think it's political at all.
Do they have a person that they are trying to get in to get other people out?
I have no idea about that. All I know is they're talking about a guaranteed income.
Yes.
Whether you work or not. There's
a documentary, Free Lunch Society.
Yeah.
For those who want to be familiarized with that, because they might be saying, what are you talking about? Free Lunch Society is a great documentary that talks about the history of different experiments with this project in Africa and in different places in the United States. And economists from Harvard and MIT really giving you understanding of why they feel like this is a viable option.
Oh, yes, it is. It is a 21st century option when you don't need as many workers. Look at Philadelphia. Look at Black Philadelphia. We were brought here to work.
Yeah, we're not going back to the cold days.
Yes, we are an African people, but we are working class people. When the economy contracts, we suffer. And that's what we're seeing. These high levels of unemployment among African American young people is a statement about the future, that there is no future for them in the economy and politics as it exists today. So we have to think about profound, and I would say
revolutionary change.
Well, radical social change. And we have to educate and talk to our people about this. That's why I read Du Bois. And if I might say, unless you want to say something.
No, I was going to say, and the irony is, I would think in many instances it would be easy to convince people who are under the foot of that level of oppression. But in my conversations with people, it's ironic how sometimes the people who are most disenfranchised empirically are sometimes the hardest to convert to understanding the realities because they're contacting the illusory aspects of the system. They're so deep into the matrix of the possibility of the American dream. Even though they have nothing and they are under the weight of it, they can't see it for what it is. And there's a tragic irony to that, where it's like, you don't have anything. Why don't you get that they're not trying to give you anything?
Let me push back against that a little bit. Every Saturday I conduct classes at the Church of the Advocate called the Saturday Free School for Philosophy and Black Liberation.
Oh, what time is this? I know people need to know.
Yeah, 9:30.
9:30, Church of the Advocate every Saturday.
Yeah, every Saturday. We've been doing it for 7 years now. And the thing is that I find that once people have the language and the concepts to explain their realities and are aware that there are alternatives to it,
I hear you.
Then you have a different conversation. And that's what I think media and social media and academics and intellectuals and leaders have to do at this time. We need a different conversation about the now time
and the possibilities.
That's right. So we can imagine a future time.
And that's ironic because, with Malcolm, with the House Negro, Field Negro,
that's right.
The critique that the House Negro gave the enslaved Africans running away was, what's better than what we got here? Basically, what else is there? What other possibilities do we have as a justification for staying under oppression?
The House Negro was always the minority. The Field Negro is the vast majority.
Well, that's good for people to hear. You just say that again. Say that. I'm not even being funny. Because every movie you watching, they make it look like one dude just got up the heart from roots to 12-year slave, and then he got his foot cut. So I think people need to know a lot more about these maroon societies, even with regards to Juneteenth and the emancipation. The fact that people were leaving anyway. And the chance of you arming these people and training these people and then thinking you were going to put them back in bondage was kind of a far-fetched assumption.
Yeah.
That after all that war, you was going to be whooping on somebody the next year. I think they knew that it was pretty much over. But a lot of times you try to make it look like, I think the best example that people can relate to is when somebody's going to break up with you, so you break up with them first. Like Donald Trump not letting the Eagles come to the White House. Yeah. Like you knew nobody was coming. So then you'd be like, well, I'm going to free you. And you don't free a single person. It only affects a few states. I think it's real clever what they do with these movies, because a lot of times people think they're getting educated, they're getting woke. They're going to the movies to see these black movies. But what you just said is, honestly, in my experience, Unless I'm talking like Senko Fuss, like some other type of movie. But mainstream movies, they actually purposely flip that narrative.
Well, when you say mainstream, I don't care what it is. When it's mainstream, that means it's corporate and profit-driven.
Gotcha.
And anything that's corporate and profit-driven generally militates against the interests of the vast majority of poor and working people. That's why...
No, I hear you. Serves an agenda.
Yeah, I want to read from Du Bois's work, Black Reconstruction. I think one time before this, I read from it where I talked about where he said the slaves were everything African. This concept that we African Americans or Black Americans are everything African. We are a merging of many ethnic, tribal, religious groups into this new kind of African people, but a working people. So let me just read this.
Please do.
Yeah. Du Bois said, "It was thus the black worker, as founding stone of a new economic system in the 19th century and for the modern world, who brought civil war and crisis to America. He was its underlying cause in spite of every effort to base the strife upon union and national power and the North versus the South. The dark and vast sea of human labor in China and India, the South Seas and all Africa, in the West Indies and Central America, and in the United States, that great majority of mankind on whose bent and broken backs rest today's founding stones of modern industry, finance, and profit, shares a common destiny. It is despised and rejected by race and color, paid a wage below the level of decent living, driven, beaten, prisoned, and enslaved in all but name, spawning the world's raw material and luxury, cotton, wool, coffee, tea, cocoa, palm oil, fiber, spices, rubber, silks, lumber, copper, gold, diamonds, leather, and much more. How shall we end the list and where? All these are gathered up at the price lowest of the low, manufactured, transformed, and transported at fabulous gain, and the resultant wealth and profit is distributed and displayed and made the basis of world power and universal dominion, and armed arrogance in London and Paris, Berlin and Rome, New York and Rio de Janeiro. Here is the real modern labor problem. Here is the kernel of the problem of religion and democracy, of humanity. Words and futile gestures avail nothing. Out of the exploitation of the dark proletariat comes the surplus value filched from human beasts which, in cultured lands, the machine and harness power veil and conceal. The emancipation of man is the emancipation of labor, and the emancipation of labor is the freeing of that basic majority of workers who are yellow, brown, and black." So I'll end there.
Well, no, that's good that you did, because we already got the phone lines lit up for people who want to talk about Du Bois. So right after the break, we're going to talk to Mo, Brother Timothy, Tyrone. Everybody just hold on the line. Right after this break, we're going to the phone lines to keep talking about Du Bois. We got Dr. Anthony Montero in the studio, and we got you waking up with word, y'all.
Are you a tenant with an eviction or repair problem and need advice? Come to Turn's free 1-hour tenant rights workshop, held 1701 West Lehigh Avenue, Philadelphia, every Saturday at 11 a.m. Turn is here to help you.
A Mattress Man is a second-generation family business. They're open 7 days a week and are located at 7421 Stedden Avenue. You deal directly with the owner, Julian, to ensure the best quality and prices on name-brand mattresses like Sealy, Posturepedic. Mattress Man discounts Serta, Memory Foam, Orthopedic, and Comprotect. Same-day delivery is available on most models to most areas. All of the mattresses are brand new, nothing refurbished. Call 215-424-5550. That's 215-424-5550. world. Ever dreamed of owning a home with no down payment and no closing costs? You can with NACA, the nation's largest nonprofit HUD-certified organization. NACA's one-stop homeownership event hits the Philadelphia area June 21st through June 24th. Get pre-approved for NACA's Best in America mortgage, and perfect credit is not required. For more information, visit NACA.com. See you Thursday, June 21st through Sunday, June 24th from 8 until 8 at the Philadelphia Expo Center in Oaks, Pennsylvania. Realize your dream of homeownership today. That's NACA.com.
Philadelphia City Council Live, anchored by Vincent Thompson.
Coming up on this Thursday's edition of Philadelphia City Council Live, it's the final City Council session before the start of summer recess, so Council will vote on final passage on dozens of bills and resolutions. We'll keep you up to date about the important pieces of legislation and what is expected to be a long final session.
Don't miss Philadelphia City Council Live, Thursdays from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. when Council is in session, exclusively on WURD Radio, 96.1 FM. And 900 AM WURD. You're listening to Wake Up with WURD on WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD. Independent Black Media.
Independent Black Media, 900 AM WURD, 96.1 FM WURDradio.com. Make sure you listen live and log on. Get your forward membership, and right now it is time to go to the phone lines. Mo from North Philly, talk about the boys with Dr. Anthony Montero and myself. Thank you for waking up with WURD, good brother.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
In terms of W.E.B. Bois, how would you think he feel about the days China and Vietnam? Would he say they was in step with Mao Zedong and Ho Chi Minh, or has they lost taste of the revolution at all, in your opinion?
That's a deep question. I think especially China, after about 1979, took a course of economic development which was not in line with what Mao had initially thought at the time of the revolution in 1949, and what he had written about earlier. In China, they say that this is part of the process of building up industry and technology to lay the grounds for really building a Chinese-type socialism. Now, China became a part of the World Trade Organization, which is this large Western-dominated system, which I think forced them to compromise on many issues, including on the nature of the economic and social development. Now, having said that, according to UN and other sources, China has lifted some 300 million people out of poverty over the last 30 years. This had never been done in history. But, you know, with the new leadership, Xi Jinping, who had to reconfigure the political leadership of the country. And I think they're looking back towards Mao, some of the earlier experiments in the 50s and 60s, in order to lay foundations to go forward. I think in Vietnam, we see something similar. Vietnam is a smaller country. They were devastated by the U.S. war. They're trying to rebuild from that. They need good international relationships, economic relations with China, with Russia, with other countries in Asia and in Europe, and that's what's going on there. Hopefully, the United States will move back from war, and that's what keeps the whole international situation imbalanced or on edge. And if the U.S. ceases to be the great predator, the great militarist of the world, it will create space for peaceful development of all of humanity, including the African continent, where I mentioned last week when I read from Du Bois. I believe, it's my estimate I think it's a kind of accurate, that the wealth of Africa is something close to $1,000 trillion, which would make it almost equal to the rest of the world. And we have to unleash that potentiality to serve the African people and, of course, humanity itself.
Well, thank you, Mo, for that deep question, so we can get that deep answer. That's why we're glad we get Dr. Montero in here, because that was a great analysis. Brother Timothy from South Philly on Du Bois. Thank you for waking up with word, good brother.
Dr. Smith, how are you? Happy to see you back.
Doing well.
And Dr. Montero.
How are you, Tim?
Good, sir. Listen, sir. The spot on the target in the middle of it is black. And what's going on at the border in Mexico? The first thing that came to my mind, Dr. Montero, is the suppression of the African slave trade that Du Bois did his dissertation on at Harvard. And from him, Dr. Leo Hansberry gets inspired and does the Kingdoms of Africa. And I think about those men who come out of there, like Dr. Charles Wesley, who went from Harvard to Yale. And, of course, Dr. Carter G. Woodson. And that reading what those men wrote who came from out of that academy needs to make us look at, like they say, after them comes us. It has always been us. That we need to reread, understand, and look at what history has provided for us. We got to stick together, and we got to fight this devil, man, because we live in a dark hour in troubled times.
You know, we call it a problem of immigrants, but the immigrants are displaced workers, be they from Central America, Mexico, or Africa. The majority of immigrants going into Europe are African and Middle Eastern. But it is a labor problem. It is the squeezing of the economies of Africa and Central America. So when you see the migrant worker crossing the border for work, we should also see in that worker the unemployed worker in North or West Philadelphia.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? And we have to see the commonality, because to solve the problem, we have to see what is common to the problems of all workers. And you know, you look at this country, 141 million people live in or near poverty. Make America great again. I don't think America can ever be great as long as poverty is ruining the masses of people in the United States or outside of the United States. So this is the big problem. And that's what, you know, forgive me for talking too long.
No, it's good.
But, you know, that's what Du Bois is addressing when he talks about the unity of the dark proletariat, the black, yellow, brown proletariat of the world, which is humanity's majority. We can never forget it.
No, by far the majority.
Yes.
Tyrone from North Philly, that should be the last caller today.
Well, good morning, my good brother.
Good morning.
Good morning, Tyrone.
And peace and blessings to all, and love and respect to my WURD family. You know, my brother, when something doesn't work, when the system doesn't work, what must we do to change it?
Well, that's the question. That is the big question. And if I could interrupt you, Ty, just to underline what you said, when the system does not work, it is not the fault of individuals. That poor mother, that poor man, that poor young person is not the problem. He is the she is the manifestation of a deeper problem. And that's where the discussion has to go.
So, my brother, when you had mentioned about the number of folks who participated in the voting process,
right,
and I'm saying non-participation is definitely not a way to deal with this massive, blatant, killing and annihilation of our people. So when you talk about a need for a drastic change, that's what we need. Folks need to galvanize to the point where we can drastically change this system, impact these things that are coming at us. And my God, young brothers, young sisters, stop killing one another. Y'all are taking precious resources, precious labor away from the struggle that we need to overcome these things that are coming at us.
Yeah, and so, Tyrone, let me just say this. I agree with you.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah, thank you. But I agree with you. But I think we have to let suffering be heard. We can't keep sweeping it under the rug. If you want people to vote, the politicians have to address the problems of the people. Matter of fact, I would say that one of the people or some of the people must run for office. They must be the spokesman of the people. We have too many politicians governing us and not enough representatives, courageous, moral representatives of the people. So I agree with you, Tyrone, but it's when we say the people should get involved, but we have to give them a reason to be involved. And as things stand today, it's not much incentive.
Well, get involved as a change agent.
That's right.
But November 6th, I'm definitely voting them out. I don't care if them seats all empty.
Can I just make one announcement, Professor Smith?
Definitely.
Just, on July 6th and 7th, at the Church of the Advocate, that's a Friday and Saturday, we will be having an event called The Struggle for Peace and the Emancipation of Women of the Dark Races.
Wow.
Centered upon Winnie Mandela, Nina Simone, Shirley Graham Du Bois, Coretta Scott King, and Indira Gandhi.
Wow.
So we'll be saying more about that, but I hope people put it on their
I'm
calendars.
glad you put that out there. Now, if people have other questions for Dr. Montero, any information you have, any Twitter or something, you wanted to be able to contact you for more questions?
I don't have a Twitter account, but I'll be back next Wednesday.
No, you're a smart man. Because I've been saying for a long time, when I weigh the potential negative repercussions of social media versus the positives, I don't really have a cause for it outside of promoting business.
I think it's disengaged. I'll be back here next Wednesday,
I hear you.
And I'll be at the Church of the Advocate.
You create a premium on your presence because you're not everywhere. You're not saturating the market. And I say, I can just watch him all day on something else.
I didn't realize that.
No, that's important. If you want to get to him, Church of the Advocate, WURD, not just logging on when you feel like it. I think that's interesting, way to approach it. I'm not with the social media just for social media because people losing their livelihoods, just for the wrong joke and everything. And y'all know I got a bunch of jokes. But we thank you for coming in again, Dr. Anthony Montero.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all for listening. Definitely been informed and educated as usual. I hope that you all learned something out there today. We had a lot of informative guests and a lot of informative segments, so hopefully we made the world a better place and let you wake up with word the right way and gave you an understanding that anything's possible. You can make it, and if you're stressed at your job or with your family or just with life in general, you can take it. I am Young Fearless, the rapping Professor Aaron Smith. She is Coesa, the super producer. Put some respect on her name, and he is Jay Scott. 2 T's taking over technology. Get your forward membership, because all that corporately owned media that Dr. Montero was referencing, they don't give you none of this. You don't see Dr. Montero on Fox News. You get him here.
Well, in fact, I wouldn't be on Fox News.
Even the answer.
I would refuse that.
It might be a setup.
Yeah.
Tucson Louverture. Tucson Louverture. You gotta take them lessons from history. When they call you for the meetings, sometimes it's better not to go. We love y'all and we thank y'all for waking up with words, y'all.
All right with me. Just one look at you.